All right. It looks like we're alive. Okay. I'm Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. You've probably heard of the Galilee. And today is the 11th of September at 7:27 in the morning. And it seems a little warm. Let's see. 72 out now. High of 92. It's going to be a little uncomfortable. And tomorrow, 94, 93, 93, 92. Then we start going to the 80s. When we go into the 80s, we can pretty much can it with the air conditioner. So we got a few more days of air conditioning, and then we just go to fans, which is much more pleasant. And we probably stay with fans for 2 months or 15 weeks or more, I don't know. And then we go to heat. So in the interim period where you don't run air conditioning, you don't run heat, your electricity bill is pretty good because what are you running? You're running your computer and your light bulbs and your oven. And if you use the oven, not much. So that's when we don't have to choke on electric bills. All right, so today we'll cover what happened in Qatar, what happened in Yemen with Israel. Charlie Kirk got killed. We know that. I'm not going to dwell on that. I don't think it has a very substantial amount of significance. He was a pro-Israel person, and it just shows that we're getting a build-up now similar to Hitler in 1938 or 39 or something like that. The Muslims that are terrorist-oriented are the chosen people of Satan for this particular point in time because they want to kill his staunch enemy, Israel. If God is not going to make Israel the head of the nations, then Satan figures he'll still be the head of the nations. But it's not going to happen that way. But he's an idiot, a big idiot. And the people that follow him are bigger idiots. And, that's what, is going to happen. And the Bible's going to come true. Satan's efforts will fall to the wayside. Satan is being used for punishing Israel. Israel is still being punished. Okay? Now, let me, aside from Hosea 6:1 and 2, we know we're coming up on Jeremiah 30:11, which is foreign to the churches, all of them. They don't know it exists. And it reads, "For I am with thee, saith Jehovah." He's with Israel. Israel's not getting overrun by these countries and suffering very significant damage. No. But still, let's finish reading, "I am with you, saith Jehovah, to save you." Save you is salvation you. It's the word is Yasha or Yeshua. It means the salvation. Or redeem, redemption is what, it's salvation, but it'll happen at redemption. Okay. "Though I make a full end of all the heathen nations that I have scattered thee, into," basically is what he means. "Yet will I not make a full end of thee, but I will correct thee in measure, and will not leave thee altogether unpunished, So yeah, there's still punishment flowing to Israel. Now we're in the year of redemptions, which means, again, this is foreign to the church world, completely out of their range of knowing it exists, yet it's in the Bible. I think it's Isaiah 34:8, I believe. For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance, which is not the great day of the Lord, and the year of recompenses for the controversy. That's a very intentionally bad translation. Okay. The word is Riyab, I guess, and it's Strong's number 7379. I couldn't read it clearly because of the glare for a minute. To say controversy gives you the impression that God's sitting there having a verbal debate with these people. Okay, well, that's not really what it's about. It's an adversary, a cause, contend. Like, what's the contender, the fighter? You could say controversy, strife, strive, suit. So, in other words, he's fighting with the nations over Israel. The nations don't want Israel. Netanyahu is a piece of garbage that, in my opinion, it goes against Israel's best interest by far. And in my opinion, and I think it has to be factual as well, he does nothing to support Bible prophecy or to fulfill it. Yet Smotrich and Ben Gvir, the right-wing people in Israel, are always pushing to fulfill Bible prophecy. And it came out with a newspaper article, I think, yesterday, that there's practically no place in Europe these two guys can go without getting arrested or expelled or something like that. I think arrested. So that's what the world is doing to these Israeli politicians that want to fulfill Bible prophecy regarding Greater Israel and getting the land back. They want to put them in jail. Okay, so it's all heating up. So everything is going according to plan. Okay, you're in the year of redemption, which means that the enemies of Israel, which are the enemies of God, how do they fight against God? They fight against God by going after his people. They want to stop him from setting up Israel under him, answering to him willingly as the head of the nations. Satan wants to be the head of the nations with continued sin for the world. And then him and his kind become the punishment on the people, and they stay in power. The people groan and moan, but they got all the sins they want, and they groan and they moan, and they're miserable, and they're unhappy, and this is what happens. I was watching videos yesterday of Monaco. You should know about Monaco. Monaco has about 39,000 people. It's about 2 square kilometers. The place is tiny. It's like a very small amusement park or a mall, a big mall with a parking lot. I imagine that there's super Walmarts with the parking lot that are bigger than that, or at least the same size. That's the size of this place. I mean, well, I don't know. It's like that. It is 2 square kilometers. Isn't that big? It may be bigger than a super Walmart. Maybe 2 super Walmarts with a parking lot. Probably something like that. As a guess, I don't know. But they a kilometer is 0.6 of a mile, so it would be maybe bigger than 2 super Walmart parking lots, maybe 3, or I don't know. You're getting the idea, though. It's not a big place. Let me see what I could. let's get a comparison. 2 square kilometers. Uh, Vatican City is 4.5 times larger. Monaco, rather, is 4.5 times larger than Vatican City. So it makes Monaco the second smallest country by area. Manhattan in New York is 59 square kilometers. Wow, Manhattan is a pretty large place. So Monaco's about 1/30th of that. Central Park, 3.4 kilometers. That park's big. It takes time to drive through it. The Disney Park in California is 0.4 kilometers square. Oh no, it's bigger than Walmart parking lots. It's 5 times bigger than, yeah, I don't know where a good, comparison is. An average city park like Hyde Park in London is 1.4 kilometers. Close. Small towns are 5 to 10 kilometers square. So a neighborhood in a city that has several blocks might, if it's a big neighborhood, it might get to 2 square kilometers. Let's get some more comparisons. A large shopping mall like Mall of America in Minnesota is only 0.39 kilometers square. So no, it's much bigger than Walmart parking lots. Um, so it's probably you could walk around the whole place and maybe take a half hour. Okay. Now you this is the reason I'm talking about this place is it's got a heavy concentration of Satan bots in it. Okay, it's massively full of Satan bots, and I'll tell you why. You follow the money trail. This is the richest place in the world, as far as I could tell. They have about 2,000 policemen for 39,000 people in a small area. Now, this gives you a concentration of police to citizens that's high, like a maximum security prison, roughly, or a serious prison. Now, some real serious max prisons are, one guard every 7 or 10, but, it's something like a prison, a looser prison, maybe I should say. But that's not a good example. But it's got a very high concentration, so there's tons of police. Now, you take even federal agents like FBI and these kind of people, they get trained for about 6 months. Do you know how long the training is for the Monaco police department? 2 years. It's like 4 times longer than the FBI. Incredible, isn't it? Rents, I mean, for anything decent over there, you're gonna, I mean, if you want a studio apartment, you're gonna pay 4 or 5,000 euros a month for a one-room studio. A nice apartment, not a house, an apartment. It's gonna run you about 10,000 euros a month. Something elaborate could be 40 or 50,000 euros a month. Can you rent a place there if you're not a resident? Yes, but you can only stay in Monaco if you're not a resident for 3 months. I assume that's a year. Or you might be able to treat it, maybe they treat you like the European Union, I'm not sure. Where you stay for 3 months, then you got to leave for 3, and then you can come back. Okay, they have approximately one bank for every 1,000 people. They have bank secrecy superb. The only time they're going to relieve, or you're going to lose your bank secrecy there, is if it's a tax evasion problem with your home country or another country, or if you're engaging in criminality like money laundering or selling narcotics or weapons or kidnapping or whatever, right? Okay. So it's predominantly used to protect people from civil lawsuits. There's not a lot of criminal protection in banking these days. To get criminal protection, if you were worried about America and Europe and South America, you'd have to bank in a Muslim country that has no relations with them. And usually that's a rotten country that's terrorist oriented and you wouldn't want to put your money there. Or you could go to places like China and Russia who are probably not going to cooperate. Okay? But they might, if you're doing just straight up, stupid criminality, they might cooperate, but they probably won't. And a lot of it would depend on how much money you had in the bank. And the other thing these idiots could do is play in with the investigators, get the evidence, and then just confiscate your bank account for themselves. So criminality doesn't get you anywhere. The way you'd have to do it is separate your money. If you're the criminal and they're coming after you, you've got to separate your money by putting it into trusts and foundations and corporations and daisy chain them with ownership in different countries. And ultimately, you'd have to have a law firm signing for you and trust them. And then they would not be able to establish it was your money very easily or at all. But anyway, in Monaco, there's no income tax. You listening to this? There's no inheritance tax. There's no capital gains tax. There's no tax on anything. Okay? Taxes are out. Okay? The government has a king. So it's called the constitutional monarchy. That's absurd. Citizenship in Monaco is predominantly reserved for people that can show a descendancy from Monaco citizens. They might allow great-grandparents or grandparents for sure, I guess. If you could show at least one or one parent or maybe one grandparent, I don't know what the rules are, then they are very open to give you citizenship rather easily. But they still run criminal background checks on you and stuff like that. Now, I think if your mother or father was a Monaco citizen, I think that there's no background check. It's just automatically they inherit you. But rich people can get in. But it's not completely based on being just rich. Like there's countries in Europe, and like the UAE is another one of these tax havens. No income tax, no property tax. I don't, maybe they have property tax, but no income tax, no inheritance tax, no capital gains tax. But to get that to work, you got to do more than just live in the UAE. You got to get rid of your citizenships from other countries because they'll tax you, and then just become a citizen of them. Okay? And that's easier said than done, especially in Monaco. So in Monaco, if you want to become a citizen and you have a lot of money, now a lot of money to them, I think, would be about 3 million euros, dead bare bones minimum. You put your money in the banks over there, or however much you want to put in, and then you hire one or two big law firms there that are plugged in with the king. Okay, and they're the ones that are going to work with you. Now, with 3 million euros, your chances of getting in are slim and none. But let's say you put $500 million in one of their banks. Okay, now the bank is going to be an advocate of you, and you hire the law firm, which is probably going to charge you $100,000 or $250,000. They're going to be an advocate of you, and it might very well be that the king will take a bribe from you, because what's going to happen to the king? See, the king has the ultimate ability to accept you or deny you as a citizen. There is no recourse to what the king says, and you can't question the king. Okay? He has ultimate final say, completely up to him. So, I imagine if you're willing to give him a donation of $1 to $5 million, he'll take you in. But they're not in the habit of taking in criminals, because then the whole thing could fall apart. So it's a country the size of a village, right? They have no army. They have a few patrol boats to protect people from what? Piracy, people trying to rob yachts and break into yachts and steal stuff and kidnap people, and people that are drowning, their boat gets in trouble. That's the Navy. They, I think, have a couple of helicopters, and they don't even have an airport. You got to go to Italy or France to use the airport, which is, like 20 minutes, 30 minutes away or something like that. The rich people take a helicopter to the airport. It's 7 minutes by helicopter. So the wealthy people live there because they're wealthy, not criminal wealthy. And you've got to get rid of all your citizenships. You can only have Monaco citizenship. And it takes 10 years. So you got to go there, and then you got to open up your bank accounts, and then get your lawyers and find a place to live. And you live there, and then you got to start operating in the community. They're looking for you to get involved with charity, other events. They want to make sure you're active in the community. They speak Italian, French, and English in Monaco. And we attacked Monaco with spiritual warfare previously, and I was watching the videos, and what I was seeing was this. It's a tiny place, and the speed limit there in many areas is about 15 miles an hour. I think the fastest you could ever drive in Monaco would be 25 miles an hour. There's no place to go fast in Monaco, okay? Yet I saw a plethora, almost all these people that were going to some event were coming there in heavy-duty sports cars that would cost at least $500,000. Ferrari, Lamborghini, Bugatti, cars I don't even know what they are. Super expensive cars. that will go 180, 200 miles an hour. But where in the world? So then I did a search. I said, is it possible they're near the Autobahn or some highway that has no speed limit, which you're past, and that's why they buy these cars, and then they leave Monaco and get on the freeway and go 150 miles an hour? Nope, they're not anywhere near close. Italy and France don't run unlimited, speed. You can't go 150. You can do that in Germany in the Autobahn, and I think maybe some other places, but not over there. So they're on the Mediterranean in between France and Italy. Basically, if they get invaded, France is supposed to protect them. Okay? And France and Italy have a 43% income tax. So if you go live in France or Italy, 5 minutes from Monaco, you could hang out in Monaco. But that's fairly pointless to the rich because, I mean, you're still getting taxed by Italy and France. Uh, the shopping for a very wealthy person that likes to buy stupid things would be very good in Monaco. I'm sure they probably have 5 or 10 great jewelers, and you've got your banks there and stuff like that. You've got your Michelin star restaurants, and so they could go over there for a day of shopping if that's the only thing they got to do with their life. They have a Grand Prix race on the streets of Monaco once a year. They shut the streets. They put barricades. People come with these race cars from all over the world, and they got a big long race there that goes for quite a few hours. And people just go on their balconies and watch it. And they got a yacht harbor there that's an extremely famous one. And they got a yacht club there that's highly exclusive, and I'm sure they got other clubs there. So you have a collection of very, very wealthy people in Monaco that are there because they don't want to have tax problems. You're talking about people, maybe the father was worth $3 or $4 billion and left them billions. And their income might be, $290 million a year. Okay, and they live in another country, they might lose almost half of that a year. Okay, so they don't want to do that. So they got themselves set up in Monaco, and they're citizens, and they get rid of their other citizenships, and they pick up another 140, $150 million a year. Now, do they have to spend all their time in Monaco? When they're a resident working for citizenship, which is 10 years, even if they marry a Monaco person, they have to spend probably, I would guess, they want to see them spend 8 or 9 months a year in Monaco. So they got to work for this, okay? They got to work for this. But once they got it, they're in good shape. They can hang out all over Europe. They got a passport that lets them go to the Schengen countries. They could stay there. So they could actually get themselves. They got to be careful with these other Schengen countries not to set up a residency there. So they could stay there. Maybe they get an apartment in Switzerland and they go there for 10 weeks a year. And they get a house in Italy or France, and they go there for maybe 10 weeks a year. They got to be careful not to live enough time in another country where they own a piece of real estate to be, called out as a resident and have a tax liability. So they got to bounce around from country to country. They might also have a place in another continent, this, type of thing. So once you're a citizen of Monaco, you don't have any mandatory amount of time you have to reside in the country. So this is a Satan bot concentration. Okay? So, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I command all you unclean spirits to depart from every person that's a citizen or resident of Monaco now, and never return unto them again. And I further command all you unclean spirits not to go into anybody that's in the country referred to as Monaco. You shall not go into any of these people for 1 year continuously. You shall not appear to any of them, guide them, lead them, direct them, protect them, give them advice in any way, shape, or form for 1 year continuously, and this year begins now. And if any person enters Monaco that has an unclean spirit in him, the unclean spirit has to immediately depart from the person the very instant they get inside Monaco. And you shall never warn these people about it, nor shall you ever explain to them what happened after the fact. And this binding is set in place irrevocably, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you all can agree. Even if it's a video, you can agree in B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Now, why am I doing this? Because this has got the greatest concentration of Satan bots that I think anybody could imagine. Now, mixed in with that, you have civil servants that may or may not be Satan bots. You've got people that work as maids, waitresses, drivers, cooks, dishwashers, gardeners, carpenters, electric repair people. You've got a number of people, auto mechanics, and these are not Satan bots. You probably have maybe 10 or 15,000 people like that, but you've got many thousands of Satan bots living there. This is a collection for them. And that's the reason why I think the king has to approve you, and just having a lot of money doesn't mean anything to the king, because you've got to be a Satan bot. So they've developed a nation of wealthy Satan bots that live there, and it's actually not a life of luxury. It's actually a stupid life. It really is. They're congested like crazy. I watched videos of them. I don't see anybody. Well, you do. About 90% of them are not smiling and look miserable. Now, maybe that was from my spiritual warfare, because we did that a few times before. But I didn't check the dates of these videos. They could have been before we did the warfare. I don't know. But the people don't look happy. Okay. What I saw was they dressed to the nines, like Carolyn Herrera, Hugo Black, or whatever his name is, Tom Ford, Briani, all the Louis Vuitton, the great designers of the world, the Satan bots, that are confused about everything in life, but they're designers. They buy all these clothes, and it was phenomenal. I saw one Rolls Royce there, the Culligan, which is an SUV. They predominantly are into Ferraris and things like that, real expensive ones, and they're driving these things around. Now, they do this in Beverly Hills too. They drive around the streets I guess this is a trend in very expensive sports cars that'll go about 200 miles an hour. They drive around in city streets, something like that. This is not good for these high-end sports cars. Okay, the only two sports cars that I know of that you could do this year after year and get away with it would be Porsche and Mercedes. And the Porsche cars, even the turbos, because I had two of them in the past, you can drive them like a regular Ford or a Chevy every day. And I believe the high-end Mercedes you can too. But Ferrari, Lamborghini, Bugatti, and all the other crazy exotics, I don't believe so. They probably have dealership there that works on them. And when the car, these people, I'm telling you, the way they're doing it, they're probably putting 3,000 miles a year on their car. So they get all the clothes, they got all the jewelry, they pull up, The car hop opens the door for them. They get out of their car. They go into the restaurant or the event, dressed to the nines, right? And the car hop parks the car, and they look miserable, these people. They look miserable. They're not happy. It looks like a lousy place to live. They got a beach, a small beach, and the houses are sort of put on top of each other. They got buildings. They don't have any 50, 60-story buildings. They got some that look at maybe they're 20, 25 stories. I would say that maybe 30 at the top. And they got views of the water and the beach and stuff like that. And they, if you wanted to get a 3-bedroom apartment in one of these things, you'd probably be, 10 to $20 million, for 3,500 square foot, really nice apartment, but nothing super lavish, just nice, you know. 2 balconies. It would be a nice place, but it wouldn't be super luxurious like what you could get in Beverly Hills for $3 million or $4 million or something like that. I think maybe not, maybe I'm wrong, but maybe Beverly Hills could be close to that in money. But anyway, parking spots. You buy a $10-20 million apartment in America, you're probably going to get like 3 parking spots or 4. I don't know. They get 1. A parking spot in these buildings could be $1 million. So you're dealing with people that are stupid rich, okay? They're stupid rich. Now, they don't get the estates like Beverly Hills and Malibu and other places where they'll put a house on 2 or 3 acres and they got a big swimming pool. They might have basketball courts. They have a 2-bedroom pool house for guests. They got, outdoor grill. They don't have that in Monaco. They got, very, very few houses, and they're going to be $30-50 million, something like that. And they're very small. They don't live well. They're mostly living in apartments. And, they'll have a balcony, a big deal. They might have 2 balconies, big deal. So they could sit on their balcony. But the buildings are close to each other, so people could look into each other's windows. Your privacy is weak. You got a lot of congestion. There's a lot of cars and trucks and taxis running around all the time. You're gonna have noise as a result of that, plus all the people, and you're gonna hear all the air conditioners going off. You're gonna hear the cars. You're going to hear music from people's radios and stereo. It's a weird freaking place. So the ones that go there, what they're not telling you is they've got covens over there, covens for the demon worshippers. They have groups where they gather together and they conduct discussions about how they're running the country and they're running the neighborhood and they're running the influences on certain things. And this and that, So that's why I say, now there's other places that you have people concentrate too, but there's nothing like this one. The UAE is a bigger place and they got a lot of non-Satan bots there. And they have the same tax structure. And then there's Caribbean islands and places in Asia and around the world and Africa that do this too. But none of them are like this. The big advantage of Monaco is you're protected by France. You've got stability as far as any country would have stability. And you've got very immediate access to, minutes. You're in France and you're in Italy. So you could, accomplish whatever you want over there. So what do they got there? They got culture. So I don't think symphony orchestras are going to come to Monaco because they probably don't have a stadium for that. You're not going to see the soccer games there. You're not going to see other kinds of sporting events there. You've got a greater spread of shopping and restaurants, of all kinds in Italy and France, right? Um, you've got, lots of different things. If you're going to go antique hunting, I doubt you're going to see much in Monaco. You could go to Italy and France. How many custom tailors do they have in Monaco? Maybe 2, 3, but maybe 5. But if you go to Italy and France, they're known for that, both Italy and France. They make perfumes there, they make expensive purses there, they make jewelry there, they make fine clothing, women's dresses for $50,000, $100,000, all that stuff gets done there. So it's a place for people to show off their wealth, retain their wealth, and hang out with other people that are very wealthy like them. That's the way the Satan bots are. So let's see what happens over there. And remember, these are the people that cause the trouble in the world for us and everybody else. Is the Satan bots. Satan's people are the ones that are making all the problems in the world all the time. But we wrestle not against flesh and blood, we wrestle against the powers of the air, the unclean spirits. They fly around. That's who we go after, and that's what we just did. Okay, let me go into the live stream, see how we're doing. I thought you would enjoy that about Monaco. I hope you did. But that's where there's a lot of really, really wealthy people. They own stocks in corporations that you could call their businesses, right? And they get the money and the capital gains and the dividends and all that stuff going to them as citizens of Monaco. Ultimately, it comes down to them, and they don't pay any tax on it. They don't have to. So they could go out and buy yachts, and they could afford the houses and all the other nonsense over there. Okay, let me put a post. I guess people don't like it. Nobody was really coming in, but that's fine. My job is a very hard job because there's very few people in the world that want to hear the true gospel. They want to hear the make-believe gospel. Which is very anti-Israel, by the way. When you read it and you hear these people, they come out and they act like they're pro-Israel and they preach the Gog and Magog coming up next, churchianity, lying doctrines. They hate Israel. Even if they live here, they hate Israel. Because they're turning the church against Israel, basically, with falsehoods. And some of them like having Israel run by Satan bots, but I don't think they really like Israel. They certainly wouldn't want to see Israel become the head of the nations because they know they'd have no place there if they even were still alive. God didn't finish them off. So, okay, I got my post up, and now let me do some praise, being a Bible-believing site. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 So yesterday we hit Qatar. We hit several locations. We, and when I say we, I think I can include the Israeli government, are at this point not sure who got killed. there was a meeting of perhaps as many as a dozen of these Hamas bosses that reside in Qatar, being under the protection of the Qatarian government, that manage the illegal war crimes war of Gaza out of Qatar. Now, Netanyahu is such a deceiving, nasty piece of garbage. He negotiates with Qatar for almost 2 years now over Gaza. Now, very recently, he steps out and points the finger at them as being against us. Well, where was he 2 years ago? The piece of garbage. And Egypt's he lets Egypt negotiate too. How did Hamas smuggle in enough concrete and girders and equipment to make tunnels of a combined length of about 300 miles in Gaza? They must have brought in 5 or 10,000 tractor trailer loads of concrete. And Egypt didn't see 5 or 10,000 truckloads of concrete come in, and Netanyahu didn't pick it up on surveillance and just thought it was okay. You see how deceitful they are? Satan's using our own government to stop us from fulfilling prophecy. Our own government doesn't want to fulfill prophecy. It's almost 80 years, almost, and they're still maybe annexing the West Bank. We haven't even had the West Bank that long, actually. I think we have the West Bank maybe 55 years or something like that, and they're still not finishing annexing it. And what about the Israeli governments in the past that are so bad they gave our land back, making the Israeli people think that if we didn't do that, the nations will kill us. So they gave the Sinai Peninsula back. We used to get our own oil out of there, gave it back, right? Nice, very nice. And they had us give Gaza back. And now the Americans want us to fight for Gaza, our soldiers getting killed, our burden, and what? Then turn it over to America, to Trump. And Netanyahu is perfectly willing to do it. He doesn't want to see us win. He doesn't want to see us get the land back. He's destroying the real estate there for 2 reasons. He doesn't want Gazans living there, and he doesn't want Israelites living there. If he didn't destroy the houses and just killed the people, and we moved in and we had houses, well, he doesn't want that. 2 million Jews moved in over there, well, then we could take another 2 million Jews in from around the world. He doesn't want to reclaim all the countries that belong to Israel. We'd have all the oil, and then if we have all the oil, what would happen is Israel would start telling the new immigrants, come live here, to the Jews, and, we'll support you your first 10 years or 20 years or whatever, or they give a guaranteed income to everybody in Israel. Satan would croak. Satan would try to have his people kill the government of Israel that tried to do anything like that. You can't work with this government of Israel. Satan will have them killed from other people inside Israel in the government. So you can't ever expect the government of Israel, this democracy as they like to call it, ever fulfill Bible prophecy. You're never going to see it. It's just never going to happen. Okay? You got to accept that. What will happen is when God runs Israel with the 2 witnesses, like Isaiah 1, which is Elijah and Enoch, then they'll have the 70 councils, and you'll see Israel start going to work. But it's going to be like redemption, and then we'll get the land back, and we'll become the richest nation in the world. And we'll be administering the world for Jehovah. Okay, so let's go through other things that happen, and it's getting bad, which a lot of the people in the church world and so forth are going to say, it's getting bad. But the bad is good. because it means we're getting closer to Zechariah 12, which means we're getting closer to redemption. But the church world doesn't know that when Yeshua appears in the cloud and you see him, you'll be like him. And John 6:40 says, if you believe in and look upon him, you'll have everlasting life. See, they've been, all this has been hidden from them, from the church. The church is hiding. So anybody that preaches in the churches and is pro-church is an enemy of you and an enemy of Israel, but you're dumb enough to not believe it. That's the problem. Instead, you called me an apostate. Prayer requests for RG, Romeo Golf. RG, Romeo Golf, RG. Prayer requests to have much better sleeping, longer and better sleep. For RG, longer and better sleep. Okay. So I told you, I think we're just waiting for Yeshua to appear in the clouds until the punishment on Israel is complete. Because remember, it says, comfort you, my people. Tell them that their wars are finished. Okay, so all these wars Israel is going through is part of God's plan written in writing in the prophecies, and everything's going according to plan. So you need not worry. That's what I keep trying to convey. Maybe I get through and maybe I don't. I don't know. Okay. There was a school shooting in America and they shot that guy in the neck. The TV commentator, a speaker who was pro-Israel. The infidels motorcycle gang, or club, I should say, initiated with Iraq war veterans forming a motorcycle club, and they're adamantly against the Muslims that engage in jihadist terrorist movements, and they stand up against them. Look, these Arab Muslim terrorists come in a couple of different flavors and not hard to understand. There's some that are cowardly and just will attack an enemy they're rather confident they could defeat, like a child or something like that, right? A small child. Others are jihadists and they'll attack a squadron of soldiers. They don't care. They just want to get killed. So these guys are doing security in Gaza, and they're doing the humanitarian aid distribution in South Gaza. These sites are operated by Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, GHF, the abbreviations, a U.S. and Israel-based nonprofit established early 2025 to distribute food and supplies amid the ongoing conflict and humanitarian crisis, referencing Gaza. An infidel, you need to understand, when they were fighting in, I think, the Taliban, and they were fighting Saddam Hussein and stuff like that, the American military would get hats made that said infidel and t-shirts that said infidel. It was a joke they made against the Muslims. The Muslims would derogatorily refer to them as infidels, and they were wearing the infidel label on their clothing and proud of it. I would be proud to be what they consider an infidel too. I certainly wouldn't want to be one of them. More than a dozen earthquakes have been reported off the Oregon coast since Monday. That's a lot of earthquakes in a way. I mean, see, I try to bring out these unusual occurrences. The Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, Donald Tusk, announced the activation of Article 4 of the NATO treaty. Now, you need to understand what this is. Article 4 is reserved for a nation that feels they're in an imminent threat. Okay? When the nation is really scared that something's about to go down, they call Article 4. The drones in Poland yesterday actually hit a house and I think probably some other things. Russia went pretty far with this drone thing. It wasn't so sweet and innocent. So Poland got scared and they called Article 4, and I imagine they'll have a meeting today. Or maybe it could drag out till tomorrow, but it wouldn't be long, and discuss what happened. And the other NATO countries are going to ask Poland, what do you want us to do? Not sarcastically. And I think what you're going to see is the following. And you're going to see something. You're not going to see this Article 4 thing go, and then NATO's going to say, well, thank you for advising us. We appreciate the update, and we'll see you around the campus. Adios. No. Probably more jets will come in from NATO countries with pilots. Why? The jets can take down drones. What kind of jets? I don't know. Eurofighters, Rafales. We'll find out. Okay. And they might put tanks and troops inside. Poland, I would say not yet on tanks and troops. I'm not so sure they would do that right now, but I'm thinking extra aircraft, and they might help Poland with some air defense systems, which can shoot down drones. So they might give them some extra air defense systems. Now, they may not need sophisticated missile launchers because drones are slow moving and not that sophisticated. So they might give them the kind that use guns, like 30, 40 millimeter guns. They could go up a few miles. So they could detect the drones and shoot flak at them and stuff like that. That might be what they'll give them. They're not going to make believe nothing happened. This is not going to go down like that. They're also not going to go to war yet. But this pushed things a lot closer. And at the same time, Russia is building up troops on the border with Finland now. So what's going on with this nut Putin? Is he really going to do multiple invasions? If he's getting ready to do that, and he means it, it's going to probably happen when Iran lights up the Middle East and North Korea lights up South Korea and China lights up Taiwan and Japan. Okay. See, the numbers on this is the scary part. This is why I'm sure you're going to have a reaction from NATO, but I'm also sure it's not going to be a declaration of war. Russia flung or launched, you could say, 400 drones towards Ukraine yesterday, or 2 days ago now. But 100 of them entered into Polish airspace, and some struck various targets in Poland. So Putin really went pretty far. Again, Poland is the avenue that's used by NATO to bring weapons into Ukraine. The weapons from the European countries in America go to Poland, and then they're transported into Ukraine on a border with Poland and Ukraine by train. They got rails, they got truck routes, so they could fly it in or helicopter it in or whatever. So Putin figures by scaring him, it won't happen. But there's going to be a reaction. They're going to have to do something to make sure this doesn't happen again. If they don't, Putin's going to start making it so that Poland cannot be used to bring the weapons into Ukraine. So when Ukraine runs out of missiles and other artillery shells and other things, Putin could overrun them. You understand? So they can't let that happen. So that's why they're going to help them. I don't know if they're going to say, okay, we got to put in another 200 tanks and 18,000 soldiers or something like that. They might get to that point. But Putin wasn't showing any signs of a ground invasion, so why do it now? I think they're going to worry about air things, so they'll provide helicopters, maybe, but most likely fighter jets and radar and missile defense systems and stuff like that. So we'll keep you updated on that, but that's exactly what I expect. So then we hit Qatar yesterday and we hit Yemen yesterday. We hit both. We started with Qatar and then we hit Yemen. So regarding Yemen, the Ministry of Health in Yemen, which could be big liars, said 9 killed and 118 wounded in the Israeli strikes in Sana'a and some other place, the capital, in Yemen. The amount of dead generally rises within 1 to 3 days because people are in critical condition and they try to keep them alive and they don't quite make it, they slip away. So we'll see how that goes. The infidels motorcycle club, which is a nice way of saying motorcycle gangs, also is in Europe, I think the UK, and they have soldiers there that were fighting against Muslims in Europe. So they know how the Muslim terrorists operate and how they pick on the weak and stuff like that. So they've got an axe to grind with them, and they're grinding it. Now we'll talk about fires. As we move into September, the fire year now remember, they're trying to not give you all the scoop here. The fire year has crossed more than 48,000 wildfires, and over 4.2 million acres burned. Now, wait for the kicker. What stands out this week is the steady increase of lightning caused, what does it say exactly? Lightning caused lightning, what are they saying? Okay, lightning caused ignitions. In other words, lightning causing fires, particularly across Oregon, California, Idaho, and Wyoming. Wow, that's a big hunk of land, isn't it? More than my backyard. So the lightning is causing a lot of these fires, and God controls the lightning. These fires reflect the natural rhythm of summer storms, yeah. Yet they stretch firefighters' resources already committed to long duration fires. While lightning is beyond our control, human caused fires So there's also a lot of arson. I've read that in reports to you previously. They don't like to talk about it because it scares the people. So I've read in the past from CAL FIRE, half of their fires are arson, half. So when you get with the lightning and you get with the arson, there's not much left. So that's, again, things moving according to plan. I will kindle fires in and about your cities. There's other scriptures. That's in Jeremiah 50:51. Okay, so again, everything is moving according to plan. Why are people upset? They don't know what to plan. They're listening to the churches. They don't know what's going on. The latter updates on what happened in Yemen is Israel airstrikes on Yemen killed at least 35, injured 130. So we'll see how the count progresses, if it does, from there. Cuba, which is a definite ally of Venezuela, which is on Trump's endangered species list, has experienced a complete, well, I'll use the words of the news article, Cuba is entirely without power following electric grid collapse. The country's energy ministry confirmed Okay. So that's an ally. So they're saying there's total disconnection of their electrical grid in Cuba. Disconnection doesn't talk to me that there was an explosion or a lightning strike or a flood. It sounds more ominous, doesn't it? Does to me. And remember that this could be, they don't want Cuba trying to support Venezuela and do anything or something to America or something like that. I don't know. Cuba might have missiles from China and Cuba. I don't know. I'm just saying, I don't know. It also would be taking their radar out, I guess. Maybe their radar runs on a generator for a while, but it'll probably go out. Okay, then we got a 40,000 acre fire in Central Oregon. sparking evacuation orders near Clarno, wherever that is. Now this is interesting. Now we got to switch to drought. You got to pay attention because I got the scriptures for you too. See, everything is moving according to plan, God's prophecies. That's the plan. Most of Massachusetts, the state of, is in significant drought, raising wildfire concerns. Massachusetts and other places, almost 30% of America has some type of drought. So let's read Jeremiah 50, verse 38, and see if we get a match, so to speak. Jeremiah 50, 38. A drought is upon her waters, and they shall be dried up. For it is the land of graven images, and they are mad upon their idols. So, what does he say? A drought is upon her waters. Well, what is a water? Is it reservoir waters? Well, it's not a beach with sand, so yeah. Rivers, streams, lakes, waters. They shall be dried up for it. Okay, you're having that. Okay, now Jeremiah 51, verse 36. We read it again, similar. Jeremiah 51, verse 36. Therefore, thus saith Jehovah, behold, I will plead thy cause and take vengeance for thee. He's talking about Israel, the Jews, you could say. And I will dry up her sea. Now, what's the word for sea? Yam, ocean, sea. I don't know what that could mean. It could mean Great Lakes. It means a lot of things. Salt Lake, maybe. I don't know. Many things. Dry up her sea and make her springs dry. And Babylon shall become heaps, a dwelling place for dragons, and an astonishment and a hissing without an inhabitant. Now, why does he say a dwelling place for dragons? Because the people in America love the dragon, Satan. So he turns their land over to dragons. You get it? It's the unclean spirits that cause all this misery, guys. You got to understand that we got the keys to the kingdom and we just take it away from them. And that's what we do here, but nobody else does. The churches don't. They sit there going, holy, holy, holy. You know, they don't do nothing. So Netanyahu tells Qatar to expel the Hamas leaders or bring them to justice. If you don't, we will. Now, what is this about? Well, it's starting to come true, maybe, that we haven't killed as many of the leaders as we thought in that attack yesterday. We may have killed some. Muslim pro-terrorist media is saying two of the big shots over there did get killed. They say they're martyrs. And I'll be back in a minute. We'll get into this. But we still don't know for sure of what happened and didn't happen yet. So let's talk about Trump and Qatar. Trump got his $400 million jet for free out of Qatar, but he couldn't keep it as a personal jet. So he turns it over to the government. And what I read when that happened is that the government said, the Secret Service people, they're going to have to go through every inch of that thing to make sure it wasn't set up to spy on Trump or sabotage, crash. And then people were saying it would cost more to do that than it would to buy the plane outright. I have not heard of Trump or any of his entourage using the jet. I think Trump just thought it was a great idea and got intoxicated by a free $400 million plane that I believe had more luxury features in it than Air Force One. Air Force One is designed to carry probably 30, 40 Secret Service agents, 20 anyway. In case the plane makes an emergency landing someplace, in Utah or Idaho or Virginia, who knows where, they can't rely on local police to protect. So I don't even think they'd have 20. I think they'd have 30 or 40 or something like that. They have a good amount. So they would go and build a perimeter around the plane. And they have weapons of substantial, I'm sure, on the plane. They probably have full auto machine gun rifles. And they probably have smoke grenades, flashbangs. And they probably have some shoulder-fired missiles to take aircraft down. So if the plane had to land, they wouldn't take Trump off the plane because they don't have a place to keep him. So they would probably stay on the plane and wait for 50 or 60 Secret Service agents to show up, which might be 30 minutes, it might be 2.5 hours. And then they would try moving them with some kind of armored vehicle. They carry armored vehicles in the plane. So they got to hold out for a few hours. So they got a good amount of Secret Service agents there. 20 would be pretty minimal, okay? But that might be all it is, okay? And they also protect them on the plane because there's people on the plane that work for the government and people on the plane that work for the media and other guests and stuff. Okay. So then you got a media section. So you might have 15 or 20 media figures on the plane. And if you're not giving Trump favorable news reports, you ain't getting on that plane, are you? Come on. And then you got meeting rooms, conference rooms. I think there is a bedroom for Trump. I think they have a bed there. I don't know if they have a shower, maybe not, I don't remember. And they got some sort of kitchen there, but I don't think it's a really hotsy-totsy kitchen. I think it has those steam heaters that they put on airplanes, not a microwave, it's a steam heater, a quick one. And they put the prepared meal in the oven, and they fire up the steam, it's 10, 20 minutes or something. And it heats up the meal. They probably have a full array of snacks, nuts and candy and all that stuff. Probably, I got 10 different things probably. Um, I doubt they have a smoking section. I doubt that. They probably have a bar with a lot of alcoholic beverages for whoever wants it. Um, but a lot of people aren't allowed to drink when they work them, so. Secret Service have their own room where they hang out in. The media has a room. The crew has a room. The stewardess type people have a room. The kitchen people have a room, you know. And you got Air Force people there that are working the intelligence system of the plane to make sure they're not being tracked or under attack. And that could be 5 or 6 people. You got a lot of people in there. And it's not that luxurious where these Muslim Arab oil and gas, kings build their aircraft much more luxuriously. For instance, they build sofas in there for people to sit in. They build a big dinner table, beautiful dinner table that might cost $500,000 or $1 million. That could seat 20 people. They more than likely have a real kitchen in there. Maybe not like the house. They might not have gas. They might just cook with electricity, but they probably have a real kitchen. They probably have a 6 or 8 burner stove. They probably got 2 ovens. They probably got 2 microwaves. They got to cook, I think most of the idea, though, is to prepare the food on the ground and bring it into the plane just for heating and then serve it. But these Arabs could be doing it a different way. I don't know. The Secret Service may not allow that because of the risk, so maybe they just have to go to using the steam heat. Steam heat would be electrically boiling water and making steam, so it'd be pretty low risk for fire, So Trump's the type of guy that'll say, regarding Israel pushing them around with Hamas leaders, to say, well, I already got my my jet out of these guys. What the heck else are they going to give me? And he hasn't even been able to fly on the jet yet. And he may never be able to. It may wind up being used just for second-tier dignitaries, not the Secretary of Defense or the Secretary of War now or the Secretary of State or the Vice President. It would be used for Assistant Secretary of State or maybe special envoys like Witkoff or different ambassadors and stuff like that. It wouldn't be used for it'd be used for second and third tier people. But they still have to make sure the thing is not eavesdropping. But I think they could probably accomplish that pretty quickly. Somebody said they have to go through all the circuits and everything. If it's that bad, they're going to probably just have to get rid of it, I don't know what they'll do with the plane. Trump probably he says he wants to give it to his library when he's no longer president. They let them have a library. So he put it into the library. So what does that mean? Probably that he'll get to use it when it's in the library, but I don't know if he even cares about that. He's getting on in his years. He'll be around 80 when he gets out of office, and he's got his own jet, so I don't think he cares about that. He got his own jet. He bought an old jet. He didn't buy a brand new jet. You could buy old jets very cheap. By that, you can get them 10, 15% of the new price, even less sometimes. But it's the maintenance that gets you. So he could be turning against Qatar because he sees Qatar getting in the way of this multi-billion-dollar transaction he envisions with Gaza being a gambling casino resort haven. You know, so Qatar is against Trump on that. Qatar wants the Gazan people staying there. See, I broke this down for you. On all of Israel's borders, there's enemies prodding Israel like a thorn in the flesh. Hezbollah at the north in Lebanon. On the right or the east, you've got Syria and Jordan. Okay? Definite enemies of Israel. On the left or the west, you got the Mediterranean. Well, they can't get the fishes to attack Israel, so that's a dead end right now. And then they someday might with ships, but not now. And then you got Egypt, which is in the south, and they even for months have 100,000 plus troops on our border. Okay, and then you could actually say Saudi Arabia, although Saudi Arabia doesn't have a border with the Eilat area per se, it's quite close. And then you also have Yemen, and then you also have Iran. So, if Trump removes Gaza out of the equation, right? Now Israel isn't under such pressure. One of the thorns in their flesh has been removed. While it's okay, the land went to America, that's what Trump's banking on. See, we're not giving the land back. We don't want Satan to stop reigning. We love Satan. He's our Lord and Master. We don't want Jehovah and Yeshua. So, yeah, we give the land to America so that way Israel doesn't get it. They're not fulfilling prophecy. We break the faith of the Christians. And, well, all this psychotic stuff that the heathen rage, and God laughs at them. Okay, so this is likely the straw that's going to break the camel's back, so to speak, with insulting Jehovah, having Israel fight for this land, having Israel soldiers get killed, civilians getting killed by missiles and whatever, and property being destroyed as well. And then they get their phony leader of Israel, who's not really for Israel, in my opinion, Netanyahu, and they have Netanyahu give the land to Trump. Yeah, take it. We'll fight for it and you take it. What kind of crap is that? You know what I'm saying? The people here buy it. I'm shocked. It's very dangerous living in a country where people are asleep and living in sin. It is. It's extremely dangerous. Look at America. Look at the UK. Look at the EU. Look at Israel. Look at all these places. It's horrible. They just make life horrible for you. The only countries that are really flourishing in the world today are the Muslim countries, and they're under a delusion, and they've got big money, and they're operating, like everything's okay. But I think it's not okay anymore, and I think if you were going to go to the royal palaces of these bums, these Muslim, they're not really Muslims, they say they're Muslims, these people, these trillionaires, that you would see they're pretty miserable today, because they know it's coming. They're just trying to stall it. So they get on their yacht, their $800 million yacht, and they're not relaxed. They're afraid it's going to happen. When's this going to go on? And they sit down in their, $250 million mansion, and they have some really gourmet food that's flown in from all over the world fresh, and they can't enjoy it because they know their end is coming. You see, that's how it is. That's what's going on in Monaco with these rich people. They're not having a good time anymore. I think if we found video from 15 years ago, 2010 or something like that, you'd find they were pretty cheerful and happy people. Not today. No, no. So Trump may be letting Netanyahu do it. So we heard reports that Qatar was told Israel was going to attack this building, and it happened. And the fact that we got quite a few wounded makes me think maybe there was some sabotage there. We don't have the full reports yet. We got to see. Some people are saying that underlings, like secretaries and assistants, personal assistants, people like that, security people, got killed or hurt. But there's reports saying that the meeting broke up just before the attack. So it could be possible that Qatar waited, and then just before the attack came, they called them on the phone and said, "Run out of there," and they got out of there. And they didn't get killed. But it seems that some of them did get killed. So we got to get a breakdown. Israel will release it when they know for sure what happened. Right now, we're getting Muslim pro-terrorist media, and their credibility is worthless. So we got to wait and see. But one of the big ones, the big Muslim media, did say, one of the people writing in there did say that two of them are martyrs now. The big numero uno of Hamas in Gaza and another one are martyrs. So if the pro-terrorist papers said that they're martyrs, it means they're dead. That likely happened, but we got to wait, and it's frustrating, I know. That Netanyahu sent a warning to Qatar makes it appear to me that there's going to be more attacks and in Qatar. And he's telling Qatar to give them up. They won't. Now, here's the wild card. Qatar could go to them and say, "Listen, dudes, it's been nice, but now it's time for you to change campuses. You can't stay here on our campus here in Qatar. You got to be a transfer student and go to Erdogan in Turkey and stay with him. I don't think the Israelis will go fight against you in Turkey and try to kill you. They're not going to do a targeted assassination in Turkey. They're afraid Turkey might fight back. So that's their safest move, and Netanyahu knows that, so he's allowing time for that to happen, obviously. And they go to, well, and maybe I'm being harsh on him. These leaders are hiding now. If they're wounded in hospitals, they're probably in an underground bunker someplace with a nurse and some monitoring equipment watching them, with 3 or 4 soldiers outside to make sure nobody gets in. And doctors probably drop over, depending, maybe once a day, and it might be 4 or 5 times a day. I don't know. It depends how bad they are. Or they may have just hit him in a hospital using a different name, and that'd be easier. Just disguise who he is and put him in a hospital. But then they have to use very discreet undercover bodyguards to impersonate being the family, and that's pretty difficult to do. You'd be looking at military-age males that don't wear glasses, don't have distinguishing marks on their hands, their arms, their face, and, don't wear glasses, and, you'd spot it. So would Israel do more airstrikes in Qatar, or would Israel try to go in on the ground and do more hands-on assassinations? Or would they do drone attacks on vehicles? I think all of the above. I think they would do all the above. But what they'll try to do is spring out at one time and try to hit multiple terrorists over there, because if they try hitting one or two, then the rest are really going to hide. You know, they'll never have a meeting together. They'll get some sort of communication devices, and they'll talk, and they won't have any. They could just write each other letters and have a courier go back and forth and bring the letters, and there's no way in the world Israel or America is going to know what they're saying. So you got to watch this one, okay? Netanyahu's not going to make war on Qatar. Qatar is a very rich country, and they do have some aircraft and things like that, and they could cause some problems for Israel, but they have a very inexperienced Air Force and military, and they wouldn't want to take the loss of the damage, which would be in the billions over there, right away, many billion. There was an article on a headline of the Haaretz newspaper today. Haaretz means the land. It was an analysis article, and it reads, Netanyahu is taking ever greater risks to keep the Gaza war going. You see, it's not a secret. I talk like this to you, but it's not just me. There's, I'm sure, well over 1 million people in Israel out of 9.5 million that know this is what this bomb is doing. Despite warnings from smaller defense officials, or from senior defense officials, Netanyahu approved the Qatar strike, raising doubts about the success and endangering the hostages in Gaza. I'll talk to that in a second. As U.S. coordination remains unclear, regional tensions grow. Yeah. So he's definitely dragging out the war again. He's a piece of crap, okay? This guy Netanyahu. And I got to defend him a little bit here because I don't want to just condemn the guy for things that I think he did that might have worked out and they just didn't happen to work out. And that would be the attack on Qatar. You don't really know what Hamas will ultimately do about that. Okay? Now, with the leaders alive, they're going to say never release the hostages, get hard, and hold steadfast. That we know. So if the leaders are still alive, it went bad. So that means we had a bad strike. Do I think Netanyahu knew it was going to be a bad strike and engineered it? No. Do I think maybe Qatar sold Israel out and told Qatar when it was going to be, and they waited and then called them up and said, get out of there? Yeah, that could have happened. So Trump will be mad. Not Trump, Netanyahu will be mad that Trump made him tell Qatar beforehand, and he's going to tell Trump next time, I'm not telling Qatar nothing. And there might be a next time, but it's going to take a week probably, or maybe quicker, to load up again and get them. But they're going to be very cautious. They had a reason to meet together in one spot because Trump gave them a proposal. And the word is Trump was setting them up. And then Trump turns around and says, Israel accepted this already, so if you do, it's a done deal. And they were sitting there talking about it, and the chances are they were talking about how they could ask for more, because that's how they are. in the Middle East. That's what they're always going to do. Okay? If you want to make a deal with them, they're figuring, well, you want something or you're afraid of something, so let's push you for everything we could possibly ever get out of you. That's how they think. People are very impossible to deal with because of that line of thinking. So what I think Netanyahu was thinking of doing is seeing if he could get rid of Hamas leaders, and then Hamas and Gaza might throw the towel in, and they get to go live in another country someplace. They get to keep their money and leave, and then once they're gone, it's child's play to get the rest of them out of there. You just make the lifestyle in Gaza worse and worse. Like we were lighting in what you would call flares to light up the ground. So we put flares up in the sky to light up the ground, and they were causing tents in southern area of Gaza to catch fire. It could have been the middle area, but I think it was the southern area. And that wasn't intentional, it just happened. So the lifestyle was lousy, and then you start talking to them about a cash stipend is saying $5,000. It might be $5,000 a head. I think it would be, because some of these characters got 4 or 5 children, and so you give them $5,000 a head, they go to the next country, they got $35,000 in their pocket, right? But they're not coming back. Once they check out, they can't come back. It's interesting. They might do it. Trump may pay for it. I don't know. Get him out of there. I mean, Trump is so nasty, he's going to make Israel pay for it, and then we turn the land over to them. Fine, do that, Trump. The worse you get to Israel, the harder the nations are against Israel, the quicker your redemption and everlasting life comes. Do you got it? The more bad stuff they do to us, the more like Spain, the more like Turkey, the more like these countries just keep punishing us. As it builds up and it gets worse and worse, the closer we get to redemption. Don't you understand that? So you want it to get worse. Do you understand? Because it's going to get worse. They're going to get to the point where they put a siege on us, where they're going to cut off everything going in and out and try to get rid of us that way. Maybe they'll tell us that you can leave Israel, it's under siege. The Romans put Jerusalem under siege, and at the beginning, they said, if you want to leave, just come, run out to the Roman soldiers and they'll take care of you. So they did. Some did. They went to the Roman soldiers and they were asked their name and stuff like that. And then they were given bread, probably bread, and water, because there was no water in there. And they would say, go your way. You're free, go. So they may try that on Israel with the siege. Nothing in, nothing out. Boat, land, right? Then they tell the Jews, if you leave, you can go live in, and Spain and these other countries that hate Jews will say, yeah, anything to get rid of Israel, because then God can't take the control away from Satan and all his dominions like us and give it to Israel. So it's better if we do that. So while we don't look forward to having these rotten, stinking Jews in our country, we're better that way. So let's do that. Let's open up free immigration, and we'll settle the Jews. We'll give them papers. We'll give them money. We'll do whatever we have to settle them. This could happen. What else are they trying to do with the siege, right? Get the people to leave Israel. That's the ultimate safety for Satan. Forget a second Exodus, just empty Israel. Or empty out as many Jews as you can in Israel and then kill the rest. So they'll say, well, you leave, and the ones that stay are going to get killed. They're going to die there. They'll die of starvation. They'll dehydrate to death or whatever, right? That's one way to get rid of the Satan bots. They'll all run out. What else are they going to do with the siege? I don't know. They may just want to keep us all here and have us surrender something. I don't know what they want us to surrender. I mean, it's an interesting thing, but a siege is a siege. They want us to do something. They want us to stop, do something, or they want us to positively do something like evacuate Israel. You get it? Okay. So we want to see it get worse. We want more anti-Semitism. We want more hatred against Israel. We want more Trump. When Trump and America go, that's what I've showed you in Jeremiah 50:51 and 50, the first few verses. When that happens, then you know you're coming to the time of the next great Exodus. When the next great Exodus happens, the people are already having the everlasting life. So that's how I interpret this, okay? And I think I'm right. I don't think we're necessarily for sure going to get demands from these other countries. You got to leave, and then we'll put you up, you know. Or they may try to move us into some rat hole country like Sudan or some other country, you know, so they don't have to put up with us, and then just dump us over there and then starve us to death or spread. Hold on a second, you know, or spread disease or something with us. Hold on a second. Oh, I don't know what that, I gotta deal with that later. Okay, so you know, you got to open yourself up to that, but there's going to definitely be people that will leave Israel. You know, there's a lot that have left now. Um, you know, you want to empty Israel? I'll tell you how you empty Israel. America goes and says, all you Israelis come to America. You get once you walk off the plane, you get $50,000. You immediately get a green card, and we'll issue a passport with a green card. And it's actually a travel document, not a pass card. And we'll put you up in temporary housing, and then you can, you know, like in a hotel, like an illegal immigrant where the gangbangers are, and then, you know, you can settle in later and stuff like that. And, you know, you'd see what, at least 1 million Israelis leave, maybe 2 million. I'm not kidding. I think you'd probably get up to 2 million leaving. Let's go to America. They don't know what America's like. They don't understand. Israel's so bad that America's easy, even though a bad America, much worse than it was 50 years ago, is better than Israel. Remember the other day, 2 terrorists went on a bus and killed a handful of people and wounded others, you know. And then every day Yemen shoots missiles and drones at us still. Netanyahu's attacks on Yemen have not bore fruit. Netanyahu continues to do the same stupid things, and they don't work. And the people in Israel put up with it. Blowing up the real estate doesn't work. Blowing up the power stations, the ports, the piers, it doesn't work. Targeted assassinations. It works a little, but it doesn't work. We did that in Gaza. They're still there. We did it with Hezbollah. They're still there. We did it in Yemen. They're still there. We did it in Iran a little bit. They're still there. It doesn't work. What works, Netanyahu won't do because he doesn't want to see Israel have a victory, and that's you blow up the enemy. Isn't that what was done in World War II? Isn't that what was done in Korea? Isn't that what was done in Vietnam? Isn't that what was done when we fought Saddam Hussein in Iraq and when all the other wars? You fight against the soldiers, not the real estate, okay? Not targeted assassination of the heads. You fight the soldiers, and you've got to kill them in very large quantities, and then it stops. How did all the other wars in the world stop? That way. The real estate, blowing up the real estate, blowing up the missiles and the factories for weapons and all that. It didn't work in any country yet. They're all still there trying to kill us. And this schmuck Netanyahu keeps doing it, and I can't believe the people of Israel put up with it. I'm in shock. Every day I think about it and I say, my gosh, are their eyes shut and are their ears stopped up or what? They don't know what's going on. They don't see it. But try to talk to them. You know nothing. Okay, Bible, Isaiah 13 and 14. Let's go through it. We haven't done that in a long time. The burden of Babylon, or Babel is the correct term. It doesn't say Babylon in any Hebrew Bible. It says Babel. It means confusion. So they don't want you to know that it's Babel because they want you to think it's a place that got destroyed a long time ago, which is in Iraq, what we call Iraq. So they don't tell you that. They're very intentionally deceiving you with the English translation. The burden of Babel, which Isaiah, the son of Amoz, did see. Lift up a banner upon the high mountain. Exalt the voice unto them. Shake the hand that they may go into the gates of the nobles. The rich people's houses. I have commanded my sanctified ones. Okay, and let's take a look at that. This is very challenging here, kids, because this word is kadosh, holy or sanctified. Chosen my sanctified ones, I have also called my mighty ones for mine anger, even them that rejoice in my highness. So what is this? Who is this? Is this the Muslims? Let's break it down. It's confusing. It's hard to figure this out. Sanctified can mean set aside. It doesn't have to necessarily. Let's see what the meaning of sanctified is, okay? Let's try Webster 1828 dictionary. Of course, that brings us back to the same year, roughly. Not the same year, but the same general time. Okay, sanctified, participle, blah, blah, blah. Made holy, consecrated, set apart for sacred service. Effectively, holy, sanctimonious. Who the heck is this? Are you getting my point here? I have commanded my sanctified ones. I have also called my mighty ones. Now, what's the word for mighty ones? Gibor. Yeah, that's a decent translation. For mine anger, even them that rejoice in my highness. Now, let me ask you a question. Open your eyes to this, okay? Do the Muslims rejoice in the highness of Jehovah or Yeshua? No. You think they do? Could it be the church? Possibly, but they're not his holy or sanctified ones. But it's not the Buddhists, it's not the Hindus, it's not the Muslims. And I don't think it's churchianity. Isn't this weird? Could it be us? Is it that we actually go over there and do something to them? Or is it the two witnesses, maybe? But would the two witnesses be exalt the voice unto them, shake the hand, that they might go into the gates of the nobles? Why would the two witnesses go into the houses of the nobles so they wouldn't? What are they going to do, start carrying junk out of there? Come on. They got better things to do. Called my mighty ones and the sanctified ones, even them that rejoice in my highness. Guys, it would have to be the two witnesses or the true believers at large. If it was the true believers at large, I would think this would be happening after Yeshua appeared in the clouds. But let's keep reading. The noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people. A tumultuous noise of the, maybe it's the Israelites and they're not yet experienced everlasting life. And the two witnesses. Why do I say that? I have commanded my sanctified ones. Okay? I have also, let's see, Gam. Gam is also. Okay, Gam. That's in addition, also, or in addition. My mighty ones, for my anger. And then it says, even them that rejoice in my highness. So what's going on? We got to pray. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, I come to you in prayer for you to open these scriptures up to us, the ones I'm reading in Isaiah 13, verse 3, and make us understand this, because I think I kind of understand it, but I have a lot of uncertainty and doubts about it, and I ask this of you for clarity, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and agree in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach. Okay. So this is something unusual here. Why would he call the unsaved Israelis the mighty one, the sanctified ones? I don't think he would. Could he call Muslims sanctified ones? See what I'm saying? This is very, very confusing. The noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together Jehovah of hosts mustereth the host of the army of the battle. So now we're getting the heathen there. So now we got to go back and say, okay, the sanctified ones means the ones that he set aside, not the holy ones to come do it. And then the mighty ones, do they rejoice in his highness? This is getting confusing. But now it's starting to look more and more like the heathen nations. Okay, so now we go to verse 5. They come from a far country, from the end of the heaven, even Jehovah and the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land. Howl you, for the day of the Lord is at hand. It shall come as a destruction from the Almighty. Therefore shall all be faint, and every man's heart shall melt. Probably the occupants inside America. And they shall be afraid. Pangs and sorrow shall take hold of them, the occupants of America. They shall be in pain as a woman that travaileth, like a birth pain. They'll be fearful, it'll hurt their guts, I guess. They shall be amazed one at another. Their faces shall be as flames. So it's saying Punim, let's check. Punim, yep, Panim. Let's check for flames. What? It doesn't quite say what they're telling us it says their faces, and then it uses the same word again, faces. So it's saying their faces shall be as the flames. It doesn't say flames. Maybe it does over here. Wait. Yeah, face flames, yeah. Their faces face flames. So it doesn't necessarily mean that their face is on fire. Their faces face the flames. So they're looking at fires. We covered this earlier, right? They shall be weary. The folk in the fire shall be weary. There it is. Behold, the day of Jehovah cometh, cruel both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate. And that could be the earth word too, where it says land, it could be earth. They don't want you to know that. They want you to think he's laying Israel desolate, where he's laying the earth desolate, which is consistent with Jeremiah 30, verse 11. See how nasty, mean, and evil they rotten people are? The wolves in sheep's clothing. They're here to kill you, not to teach you. And why do they want you so disheveled and away from other believers? Because when two or more are gathered together, there he is in the midst of us, and we can agree. If two of you on earth agree, it'll be done by my Father in heaven. See, they don't want us getting together. They're afraid of that. But too late, we've been doing it. To lay the land desolate, and he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. Well, you see, they ain't going to last, but go find a church that's going to teach that. For the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkness in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. Now this is the great day of the Lord here. This is the end of the 70, the second 70 of Daniel 9:24. The sign of the first 70 is the sun goes dark and the moon goes to blood. The sign of the close of the 70 years, when Yeshua returns to New Jerusalem, is the sun goes dark, the moon goes dark, not the blood goes dark, and the stars fall like figs to the ground, and they don't give their light. Verse 11, Isaiah 13:11, and I will punish the world for, let's check that word. Yeah, it can mean world. All right, I will punish the world for their evil. And I don't ever see the church really talk about this. And the wicked for their lawlessness. Iniquity means lawlessness. They don't want to say lawlessness. They put a word in you're not going to really understand. It means without law, lawlessness. That means the law is not dead. Their iniquity, and I will cause the arrogance or the arrogant I will punish the world for their evil and the wicked for their lawlessness, and will cause the arrogancy of the proud, like Trump and Netanyahu and them, to cease, and will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. I will make a man more precious than fine gold. Precious. Let's check that. To be prized. Let's get into it a little better with this word, precious. To be heavy, valuable, to be rare. See, there's a lot of dead men. Okay, that's what it's saying. I will make a man more precious than fine gold. And even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir. There's not going to be a lot of men left. Therefore, I will shake the heavens, and the earth shall remove out of her place in the wrath of the Lord of hosts, and the day of his fierce anger, and shall be as the chaste roe as a sheep that no man taketh up, they shall every man turn to his own people and flee every one into his own land. That's leaving the daughter of Babylon before the big battle. Every one that is found shall be thrust through. The ones that don't get out are dead. And every one that is joined unto them shall fall by the sword. Their children also shall be dashed to pieces before their eyes. That means they take the babies, they pick them up by the feet and smack them into a wall or a rock or something like that. or the bigger ones maybe off the roof or something, I don't know. Their houses shall be spoiled, and their wives ravished. Behold, they're going to get raped. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them. Now, the Medes is not just Iran. It includes Iraq and some other, like Azerbaijan and some other places, okay? I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver nor gold, for they shall not delight in it. So, this could mean that Iran, before it gets destroyed, attacks America. Because the Muslims are the ones that are going to destroy the idols. The Hindus got idols of their own. They're going to say, oh, these are their gods. I'm not going to destroy them. The Buddhists, ditto. They got their own god idols. They won't destroy the others. Who's it going to be? Atheists? They're not going to care to destroy idols. It's Muslims. Who goes around raping the women? Remember October 7th, the Muslims. What they do to the children of the Druze in Syria, kidnap them, and they're crazy. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver nor gold. They shall not delight in it. They're going to want to destroy the idols and kill their enemies. Their bowels also shall dash the bows. No, their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. They did that in October 7th. They cut a baby out of a woman alive in front of the children. Their eye shall not spare children. They put mothers and children, tied them together with baling wire and burned them alive in cars, not alive. Put a baby in a microwave oven and killed it. This is what they do. And this is who Qatar helps. And this is who Biden was giving money to. And this is who the Muslim oil-producing countries give money to, and so forth. And Babel, the glory of the kingdoms, plural, the beauty of the Chaldeans, excellency, shall be as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay? When Lot got out, they all got burned up. So when the people get out of America, the believers, the Israelites, then it's going to be doomed, I would say. It shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation, neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there. So I would say why that, because the Arabians are in the attack on America. Neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. See, I think the sanctified ones are the set-aside ones, like the Medes that are doing it. And the mighty ones could be other good warriors from other countries and stuff like that. And the two witnesses might be there helping the Israelites and the believers get out. I don't know. I don't have the complete clarity because the scriptures don't give us complete clarity. But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and owls shall dwell there, and catalysts shall dance there, and satyrs shall dance there. Well, The owl. You know, they got that place in the Russian River in California with a big owl. Owl, OWL. I don't remember the name of the joint, but that's where all the leaders, the heads of state, and them go to have parties. You know, who knows what kind of animal sacrifices, people sacrifices they do. Who knows? And their theme or their icon is an owl, so that's why he's letting owls live there. Dragons live there because they serve the dragon, who's Satan. And the wild beasts of the islands shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant palaces. And her time, like big lizards and stuff, you know. And her time is near to come, and her days shall not be prolonged. It's pretty clear about the end of the DOB. Now we're in 14. For Jehovah will have mercy on Jacob, that's the 12 tribes, Israel, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land, and the stranger shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. Okay, so you get, as a true believer, you get incorporated into Israel. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the wait a second, let me get this straight. Possess them. Let's check the word. 51:57. To get us possession, that means slave. Okay? So they have no place to live anymore. They're scared. The Israelis got an everlasting life. They don't, and they don't know what to do. So they're bringing them to Israel as a sacrifice to the Lord. Then they're going to say, well, let us stay here. We'll work as your servants, so they could have food and a roof over their head. Okay? And handmaids, and they shall take them captives. Okay? That's not hire them and give them a good wage. Capture them. That's, slaves. Okay? Get ready for it. Whose captives they were. And they shall rule over their oppressors. You see how the Lord reverses it on them? So the ones you see with the Rolls Royces and the wearing $75,000 dresses and $100,000 rings and all that stuff is going to be sitting there helping the believer women get dressed to go to dinner or something. Okay, they're going to be maids, handmaids. To steal a line from Jackie Gleason, how sweet it is. Not that he was a godly person, he wasn't. They shall rule over their oppressors. And it shall, soon, very soon, you'll see this, and you're going to say, I can't believe this is true, but it is. I mean, you know it's true, but you say, oh my gosh. And it shall come to pass in the day, that's the day of Zechariah 12, that Jehovah shall give thee rest. Let's see what that is. Okay, rest, give you rest from thy sorrows. Now, we all need that, right? And from thy fear, and from the hand, from the hard bondage wherein thou wast made to serve. That's our lot right now. That thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babel, currently Trump, and say, how hath the oppressor ceased, the golden city ceased. Now I'm in 14 verse 5. Jehovah hath broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers, the world leaders. All of them. He who smote, there is no such thing as a non-Satan bot ruler of any country in the world. Okay, forget it. It doesn't exist. If it did ever exist, they'd overthrow him. It doesn't exist. There's no such thing as the leader of a church or a congregation that opened publicly to people that's not a Satan bot. They'd get rid of them, and they're all Satan bots. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger, the heathen nations, that's Satan, is persecuted, and none hindereth. And we're persecuting them already, but we're not the fullness of it at all. Are we not persecuting them? The whole earth is at rest. How sweet that'll be. And is quiet. They break forth into singing. Yea, the fir trees rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since thou art laid down, no feller is come up against us. See, since you laid down when you're at rest. So the whole creation groaneth for the redemption of the sons of God. Then now they realize it and they're happy. The animals will be happy. You'll see. Your cats and dogs will be happy. Hell from beneath, and that's Sheol really, is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. It stirreth up the dead for thee, even all the chief ones of the earth it hath raised up from their thrones, all the kings of the nations, the ones that are in Sheol. All they shall speak, there's so many are going to be coming at the same time or close in time that they're going to, come out to meet. They're going to want to see who they know and what's going on. They're going to be swarming down there, loaded up. They shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? See, they can't do nothing. Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy viols, like a violin, are warm. Are the viols? The worm is spread, and the noise of thy viols. Oh, the noise of the vial is brought down. It is no more. The worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. They're in the earth. They got the worms. The worms crawl in, the worms crawl out. How art thou fallen from heaven? Now he's talking to Satan. O Lucifer, son of the morning, how art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations. You see, now Satan's there. So this is after Gog and Magog is over, and Yeshua's returning to earth, and the beast and the false prophet are thrown alive into the lake of fire. They get the honor of being numero unos in there, and Satan gets put in the pit, okay, for the 1,000 years. That's what this is depicting. For thou hast said in thy heart, I will ascend into heaven, and I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. He's going to storm the gates of heaven, that kind of thing. Stairway to heaven, the Tower of Babel, they were trying to reach heaven, stupid stuff. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yeah, this idiot actually believed this probably. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, is this so Satan's got a dismal future. Is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake the kingdoms? See, that word for kingdoms is mamlaka, not basilia, where they say the reign or the kingdom of God. They use the word basilia interchangeably with this in error intentionally. It's the reign, R-E-I-G-N, not the rain. Okay, reign is Gershom, the reign, the power. Okay, and they try to confuse you, make you think it's like a physical kingdom. It's not. This is the word for a kingdom, I believe, that made the world as wilderness and destroyed the cities thereof. That's probably because of his jackass wars and trying to go against God and using the people to do that. And destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of his prisoners. Yeah, he's just mean. He doesn't let anybody go. All the kings of the nations, the heathen nations, even all of them, lie in glory, every one but thou art cast out of thy grave like an abominable branch, and as the raiment of those that are slain. See, that's what he wears. I saw him, okay? It was a coarse gray smock thing that came down around the knees, below maybe. It had a little opening here, and I believe it was short sleeved, maybe long sleeved. I don't remember, but that they put some kind of a shawl or a thing like that, a death garment on. The Jews do that for dead people. They put something on them like that. So that's what I think he was saying here. As the raiment of those that are slain, they put something on them when they put them in the casket, in the tomb. Remember, Yeshua had it and he took it off and folded it up, the death garment. Okay. Thrust through. Now, the Jews say that when they get resurrected from the dead, they're going to come up wearing that garment. Well, maybe God restores the garment, but after a few hundred years, I doubt the garment got anything left, But it could be restored. I don't know. But, he's not going to embarrass them and bring them out nude. I can tell you that. The dead go to the pit, they're nude. They don't have clothes down there as far as I can tell. Thrust through with a sword that go down in the stones of the pit as a carcass trodden under feet. Thou shalt not be joined with them in burial, because thou hast destroyed thy land and slain thy people. The seed of evildoers shall never be renowned. So he's saying that the lands he was controlling, he destroyed with wars, and the people that serve him, he gets them killed. See, he's so worthless. That's what Netanyahu is like, his father, Satan, in my opinion. Prepare slaughter for his children. See, that's the future of the Satan bots. For their lawlessness of their fathers, that they do not rise, nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. See, they're not going to build their cities based on Satan and his rules anymore. Those cities will be gone. That's why he destroys the nations. He doesn't want us running around the righteous world, running around, using Satan's crap. First of all, his cities are terrible anyway. For I will rise up against them, saith Jehovah of hosts, and cut off from Babel the name and remnant and son and nephew, saith Jehovah. He's getting rid of the evil ones, the big ones, the little ones. I will also make it a possession for the bittern and pools of water, and will sweep it with the besom of besom, B-E-S-O-M, of destruction, saith Jehovah of hosts of armies. Jehovah of hosts or of armies hath sworn, saying, surely I have thought, so shall it come to pass, and as I have purposed, so shall it stand. That means it'll happen and stand. It'll happen and be there. It's not going away. That I will break the Assyrian in my land, that's Israel, and upon my mountain tread underfoot. Then shall his yoke depart from off them, and his burden depart from off their shoulders. That's for today. That'll be happening in days, a few weeks, maybe. I don't know. This is the purpose that is purposed upon the whole earth, and this is the hand that is stretched out upon all the nations, all the heathen nations, the Goyim. For Jehovah of hosts hath purposed, and who shall disannul? Who's going to neutralize it or end it? And his hand is stretched out, and who shall turn it back? In the year that King Ahaz has died, was this burden. Rejoice not, thou whole Palestina, because the rod of him that smote thee is broken, for out of the serpent's root shall come forth a cockatrice, and his fruit shall be a fiery serpent. And the firstborn of the poor shall feed, and the needy the firstborn of the poor shall feed, and the needy shall lie down in safety, and I will kill thy root with famine, and he shall slay the remnant. They're the evil ones. Howl, O gate, cry, O city, thou whole Palestina art dissolved. That's Gaza. For there shall come from the north a smoke, and none shall, that could be North Gaza, and none shall be alone in its appointed times. What shall one then answer the messengers of the heathen, that Jehovah hath founded Zion, and the poor of his people shall trust in it? See, it's the poor, the disheveled, the lame, the busted up ones with all the problems. They're the ones that God's going to raise up and use. The Cadillac people ain't going. They're not going to do very well. All right, let's see what's going on in the live stream. Let's see if I got anything I need to deal with. Somebody says, I used to eat olives out of the jar, and they're very upset with me, apparently. Tough. I don't see you sitting here and trying to spread the gospel for a few hours every day. Yeah, I'm going to find some other places other than Monaco today that the unclean spirits seem to dwell in. You know, in Beverly Hills, what I'll tell you what they used to do, and I don't know if they still do it. I would think they do. When one of the celebrities there, which is they live near each other, would go to sell their house, they would be very careful who they sold it to. They didn't sell it to just somebody that had enough money to buy it. They wanted to sell it to an acceptable person. In other words, a Satan bot. Because the unclean spirits don't feel good when they're near the Holy Spirit and people that have the Spirit. So they wanted the whole Beverly Hills filled up with Satan bots so they could be in peace. You know, that's what they did. Today, it's so bad in Beverly Hills that a lot of them are moving away. They can't go out in the street with their jewelry and all their expensive stuff. They're afraid. There's robberies. They're afraid of it. The Beverly Hills police are trying to protect them, but there's not that many. Now, Beverly Hills is in no way, shape, or form as rich as Monaco. Not even close. Okay? Beverly Hills has rental apartments that are not that much money. And, you know, it's not that rich of a place. Okay? Like Monaco. Monaco is exceptionally insane. Okay? Now, there's other places where they go. And we'll attack some of them also. You know. But none of them are like Monaco. Nothing like Monaco. But it's not such a nice place. They go. What's the predominant reason they go there? They don't have to pay any income tax, any capital gains. So if their stock goes up, or if they buy futures and make money, or their gold goes up, or they sell property and get a profit, all this stuff, there's no tax on them. So there's no tax on anything. So they're making money. They have tremendous, many, many, many millions and billions of dollars. They're making a tremendous amount of money, right? So they go there and they get a citizenship and they don't have to pay taxes. So they love it. You know, somebody with $1 billion might save $250 million a year. You know how much money that is? That's $1 billion every 4 years they save. So they get bigger and bigger, and they get into multi-generation wealth, you know. And they could take their money and go buy a castle in Europe. They could use a corporation from Monaco to own a corporation in England and buy a palace, and then they can go stay there. You know, they got lawyers that work this stuff out. You know, the lawyers in Monaco will work with lawyers in the UK to set the whole thing up like that. UK has pretty decent tax advantages for people that are not citizens. Switzerland's another place they could go. Andorra, that's a little place near France, is another one they could go to. They could go to the UAE, and that's a popular tax haven with no tax or anything like that. But that's not for everybody. It's a very hot climate. But it's maybe in some ways better and more popular than Monaco, but English, Italian, and French are not really the dominant language in UAE, but there's a lot of English spoken there, massive amount. But it's a Muslim country. They don't want to be there like that. They don't want that, you know. But I'm sure there's a lot of them that do go there. I understand from somebody, you know, that you can do a lot of what you do anywhere else in the UAE and nobody really bothers you. So the other thing is they can walk around with their $500,000 wristwatches and their $1 million rings and their $1 million earrings and drive $1 million cars, and the houses are not that expensive. probably a 5 or 8,000 square foot house on their artificial water, maybe on a half acre, or even an acre, or not a lot of land, probably a half acre. You could probably get one of those for $7 million, $8 million, which is nothing for these people, and they could get servants easy enough there. And you don't have the burglary problem, you don't have the kidnapping, the home invasion, the mugging in the street, the carjacking. They don't have this stuff over there. I believe they cut the arm off of thieves, but the problem is you can find yourself jacked up under Sharia law, and you're not a Muslim, so your testimony is worth half that of a Muslim. So why do you want to live like that? See, it's dangerous. A lot of rich people wouldn't want to live there. They might want to put a business there with corporations, and they wouldn't be that worried about that, and they wouldn't have taxes, but they don't want to go there. Then you could go to Nassau in the Bahamas. They have the same thing, but that's a corrupt garbage bucket, country. You're going to get sued there by the people, the workers. You're going to lose. It's not a good thing. The king of it all is Monaco. A lot of them go to live in Switzerland. Switzerland's citizenship takes 10 years, but it's not anywhere near as hard as Monaco. It's probably 5 times easier. The Swiss passport's as good as any passport's ever going to be. It's probably one of the top 10 in the world. And it's not as safe as Monaco, but it's pretty safe. You can walk around with your jewelry and your expensive clothing, and they got plenty of Michelin star restaurants and stuff. Thing is, Switzerland could be rather boring, for party people. I believe they have gambling casinos and stuff, but it is not. The Swiss people shut down for Sunday. It's not like go, go, go. Like London is go, 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 go. But London's a horrible place to live now for these people. It's dangerous, So now, since we paid attention to Monaco, I don't think it's a nice place to live anymore. Well, watch the vacancies and the properties increase. They're going to want to get out of there. When you got hundreds of millions and billions of dollars, it's not hard for you to get up and go to another country. And there's other moves these people can make. They can go to places like Fiji and stuff like that, and go to the government and say, "Here's $5 million. I want to be a citizen," and then they make them a citizen for some special reason. The president signs it, and they're a citizen, and then they buy themselves a big spread, and they go to dinner with the president and the politicos, and they give money to their parties. It's going to cost them $1 million a year to live there, but they don't care, and they'll have no taxes and no problems or anything over there. And there's a lot of places they can play that game with. You start with the lawyers. You go to the lawyers and you say, "I got a lot of money. I want to spread it around. And here's your retainer." Give them $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 retainer, and they work it out for you. That's how these people do it. So you don't have to go to one of these countries. You can go to a small, regular country and just bribe the heads of state. The Caribbean island countries you could do. You could go to small African countries. It just depends what their taste is, If you try to go to a big country, it's like France, it's likely not going to work, or Italy or something like that. You got to go to a small, nothing with nothing country, and that's what they do. Hong Kong used to collect a lot of wealthy people, but not the billionaires. People with $500,000, maybe up to $10, $12 million, $25 million. They would like Hong Kong because it was tax beneficial and it was not that crazy to live there for prices. If you like Oriental food, it had tons of food and very crime-free. Singapore is another one. It's extremely crime-free. And, you could get over there. It's for people with several $1 million. But the ones that got 800 million, a billion, 3 billion, there's people that got 50, $100 billion running around the world. These kind of characters are going to collect in Monaco, but they need to be in a position to give up their other citizenships, which they may not be able to do for various reasons. So they work it out other ways. They may just live in Monaco. I don't know. It seems to me if you're not going to if you live in Monaco as a resident and you set up a corporation in Monaco that has your holdings and it gets capital gains, it's a Monaco corporation, so it's a Monaco artificial citizen, it wouldn't pay any taxes. So now the money's in Monaco and there's no taxes, so what do you do with it? Well, the corporation could probably buy you a villa. The corporation could probably buy a yacht. It could probably buy a lot of things. A helicopter, an airplane, and keep it in Italy. There's a lot of things it could buy. So you could, even though you're not a citizen, you can get a lot of benefits, But what corks them is, they're 43% tax in France and Italy, right? So that's the tax rate. So if they, make on their $1 billion, they make, let's be conservative, $100 million in a year, 43 million is gone in taxes. So the poor people got to live on $57 million, and that's probably hard for them to do. I'm not kidding. You think Jeff Bezos could live on $57 million a year? I think he's probably at $150 million or something. These people have estates all around the world, and they put 15, 20 servants with the security force. You're 15, 20 people in the place. What does that cost a year? All right, so my Heavenly Father, Jehovah, I pray for you to bless all the true believers that follow the channel with the true gospel. I pray you take care of all their problems with their family members, especially with their employers, with their co-workers, with their neighbors, with their landlords, with corporations they do business with governments, local or national. I pray you alleviate them from all their problems and stop the unclean spirits from harassing them and bothering them and making problems. And I pray you help them with their finances, that their finances improve, and the unclean spirits don't block them in that area. Hashem, Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree. And I bind all you unclean spirits from doing anything to make the lives of those that follow this channel and those that obey the commandments of the law and follow the Yeshua, the spirit of prophecy, and know the prophecies and know the law and obey the law and are true believers and walk in it. I bind you unclean spirits from doing anything to cause them problems with their family. You shall not go after them through their children, their spouses, their parents, their grandparents, their aunts, their uncles, their cousins. You shall not do that anymore. You shall not go after them through neighbors or landlords or bosses or co-workers or anybody else. For a period of 5 years continuously, beginning now, you are bound from doing anything like this, and any prior works that have started are cast null and void, of no value, no effect forever. And you shall not in any way, shape, or form confuse these people, the true believers, making them think that when you're communicating with them or giving them feelings or notions or dreams or visions, you shall not make them think you're the Holy Spirit of God or anything like that. You shall not do that anymore with them. And all these bindings are set in place irrevocably, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And I pray, my Heavenly Father, for me and my wife, for our peace, safety, protection, joy. Pray for our finances. We need help in that area. Pray for the peace of Yerushalayim. Pray for our animals and pets to be safe and secure and happy, healthy, and whole, as well as the animals and pets of all the true believers. And I pray for better videos and the peace of Yerushalayim, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree even if it's a video. And I also ask you, my Heavenly Father, Jehovah, to pour your Spirit out on the true believers and their families if they're believers, and the gifts of the Spirit would flow on and through and out of these people. And I also pray that the true gospel would flow forth out of these people, and they would all bear much good fruit. And I pray all this to you, my Heavenly Father, Jehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can join in. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I hope you got something out of this, and I'm just under 3 hours. Not so good, not so bad. Thanks, guys.